Έχετε τον λόγο, γέροντά μου, για 20 λεπτά.
Thank you. Firstly, I would like to thank you for the honor you gave me to be invited here in your conference. And especially directly thank you, Mr. Karagounis, for the invitation. Well, I'm working in the Faculty of Orthodox Theology from Iași, Romania, and together with my colleagues, I must prepare future shepherds of the soul who will work in the parishes. Parishes means family, man and woman. Therefore, the reason I gave the title of my presentation, Church Music of Byzantine Tradition, Support and Garment for the Liturgical Dogmatic Word, a theological point of view. Well, as a divine gift, music has always been amongst the spiritual manifestation of man. It accompanies man during his life from birth to death. But the field in which music is most present within man's life is the religious one. The participation to the divine service put man into the direct relationship with God, transferring the love for God and the communion with Him upon his fellows. That is why within the divine service, music becomes a support and for the word. Of these two, the most important is, of course, the divine service music become a support of the word. Of those, the most important, of course, is the word. Every text of the services, no matter the hymnographic category to which it belongs, means orthodox teaching, means dogma. When put to melody, the text penetrates either the man's mind and soul. It renders him more sensitive, elevates his spirituality, detaches him from all earthly cares, and brings him closer to divinity. Thus, engaging in singing, the faithful as a member of the Church participates plenary to the communion with God and with his fellows. Let us remember in just a few words that in the first centuries, Christians used two means of transmitting the teaching of faith, means which, in our opinion, could be considered as modern for those times, audiovisual. We refer to the music and icon. Most of the people were not educated, and thus they received the teaching, listening to the chant and looking at the icon, both carrying a profound theological message. Most of the heretics instilled the venom of their wrong teaching throughout popular common melodies which were easy to memorize. The Church answered, counterbalanced it in the same way. But today, in a secularized and secularizing world, in a lonely, overly technical, multicultural and globalizing world, it seems that some people forgot that beside the two dimensions of the church music, a theoretical and a practical one, there is also a third one, which is the most important, the theological dimension. Some of us have pushed the religious chanting to the other side and consider to be art, pure art. But our question is, how much of the religious music is art and how much theology? That is why, paraphrasing a great theologian of our times, we may say that a rediscovery within some of the Occidental environment, but not only of the significance of and importance of the religious music of Byzantine tradition within the spirituality of the Church, must be perceived not only as a mere ecumenical curiosity or as a novelty which is in trend nowadays, but rather as a quest of the renewal of the spiritual life of the Church and the missionary effort to communicate our faith in Christ. On the other hand, the interest for both the religion music and the Orthodox icon within the mentioned environments is a challenge for the Orthodox and an occasion to reflect more carefully on the profound meaning and on the importance of the religious music for the communication of the message comprised by the gospel of the Christ. Nowadays, the use of image and sound by the mass media has reached surprising levels, and this has also contributed to the certain extent of the rediscovery of the religion music as a support for the transmission of the Orthodox teaching. Suddenly, the old religious music of Byzantine tradition has become modern and actual. However, this advantage of the religious music as a means to convey a message is not unequivocal. The church music of Byzantine tradition, as well as the Orthodox icon, is something a risk in certain environments, especially the Occidental ones, to become a trend as an artistic exotic element brought from the Orient, or to be reduced to the state of an aesthetic and didactic object. On the other hand, not all the church music, as well as not all the icons, transmit the authentic message of the gospel. With this being said, we come now to the logic question. Then, which is the real church music and how is it supposed to be like? Our answer is that the real church music is the one which is in agreement with the Orthodox liturgy. The real church music is the one that predisposes and calls for prayer, and nothing of the type of the aesthetic of an aesthetical study and admiration. The church music is not opera nor military music or means of displaying vocal qualities. Within the Orthodox cult, the word is the most important. The church music is only a support and garment for the liturgical word. Support, for it facilitates the penetration of the message into the fibrous mind and soul. Garment, for it offers the word versatility and brightness. When performed within a concert hall, church music calls for study and aesthetical admiration. There it remains as of the composer that created it, of a certain period in time, etc. Performing in front of and by all the faithful within church, meaning within the liturgical celebration and confession of the faith that generated it, the religious music call for prayer. Here it reminds us of the spiritual presence of one to whom we address, of God. No elements of the chant and no body of those who sing must disturb us and draw our attention away from our dialogue with our Creator. The minute of our attention is driven away by any exaggerated element, we can no longer speak of prayer. Or, as we all know, we come to the church to pray, to lay aside all earthly care, and not to enjoy a show. That is why Augustine of Hippo considers to be in a sin the fact that melody can draw his attention inasmuch that he misses the true meaning of the words. I quote, "Yet when it happens that I am more moved by the singing than by what I am sung, I confess myself that to have sinned wickedly, and then I would rather not have heard the singing." End the quote. Motivated by what we stated previously, we will underline moreover some important aspects of the religious chants supported by patristic text, and will emphasize the spiritual theological character of it. Saint Ambrose of Milan advanced three precise purposes of the use of chanted hymns within the church: latreutic, didactic, missionary. The religious chant is a powerful bond between people. It brings people together close to God at first, and then to each other. It is a means of pacification, of twinning between people. That is why within Orthodox it must be practiced in common, especially during the Holy Liturgy, because the main feature of the Orthodoxy is communion. Its characteristic of the church music is also confirmed by Saint Basil the Great. I quote, "Who indeed can still consider as enemy him with whom he has uttered the same prayer to God? So that psalmody, bringing about choral singing, a bond as it were toward unity and joining the peoples into harmonious union of one choir, produce also the greatest of blessing, charity." And the quota. The religious music has its own distinctive structure and features, and has a different, well-defined purpose: to elevate the soul to God. Such a music is not and must not be complicated. It doesn't need artistic sophistication, and its main quality is loneliness. It must originate from the heart filled with the warmth and purified with the sacred fire of God. St. John Chrysostom emphasized the essential condition necessary for the interpretation of the church music, which all those who want to elevate their souls throughout chanting. These are valid both for the priest and for the psalt or for the faithful. He may be an old man or a young one. He may have a rough voice, or he may be ignoring the rhythm. This will not be held upon him as defects. What is required is to have a modest soul, a conscientious spirit, a loneliness of heart, a healthy judgment, and a clear conscience. If you have this, you will enter the sacred choir of God, and you will stand by David. It's the quoted of St. John Chrysostom. In interpretation of the chant, the main role is taken by the meaning of the word, and not by the melody, although the melody has a certain importance too. We are not underestimating the value of the melody in a relationship with the text, but we need to put each of them in place. Why is the attention to a text and its meaning so important while singing? Because the word inspired by the Holy Spirit carries in itself a divine power, and even we are not able to perceive it fully, it has effect on those who interpret, who listen, who it also has an effect on the invisible spirit. On the other hand, we must not neglect, and we must admit this, the interpretative aspect. Let us not forget that even from ancient time, the psalt who were co-officiant with the priest need a special moral preparation. It seems that within the Church from Africa, the deployment of the psalms was done by the bishop with the following words, I quote, "See that you sing, with your mouth you believe in your heart, and what you believe in your heart you confirm with your deeds." And the quota. Thus, from a technical interpretative point of view, a certain quality and execution of the chants according to precise rules was required. Canon 75 of the 26th Ecumenical Council indicates both the psalms conduct within church and the manner of interpretation of the religious chant, indicating that those who attend church for the purpose of chanting are neither to employ disorderly cries and to force nature to cry out aloud. I end the quota. The canon also referred to the adequate content of the chant, which must not voiced in anything that is not becoming improper to a church. The moral spiritual dimension and the mystical dimension of the chant is also emphasized when it is said that one must offer such psalmodies with much attentiveness and contriteness to God, who sees directly into everything that is hidden from our sight. That is why my writings of the Holy Fathers on the religious chant have always taken into account the manner in which the chanting was practiced. Thus, they militate for a devotional, calm chanting free from all theatrical accent and elocution. In the same time, as we all know, the collection of the canons of the Orthodox Church comprise several rules referring directly to the religious chant. The severe circumstances in which the religious life of the Orthodox nations developed after their fall under the Turkish rule, inconvenience and restricting more and more the faithful's participation to the Holy Liturgy. For example, in the Romanian Orthodox Church, the attractive participation of the faithful to the religious chant became troublesome, for they did not know Slavonic and Greek, which were the languages in which the service was officiated. Yes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I must shortly, these papers, it's on your disposal. You can read? Yes? Electronic? Okay. If the main purpose of the church music is to open the hearts of the faithful and to prepare them for the real encounter with Christ and the holy mysteries, and this encounter is, or at least it should be, of the entire liturgical assembly, then we are all required to have an active, not a passive participation to the liturgical acts. That is why the Holy Fathers have decided that in the church the singing should be done in common, for a better inner concentration and in order to involve everybody into the preparation necessary to receive the holy mysteries. I quote, "For neither doth he give thanks alone, but also all of the peoples, for having first taken their voices, next when they assent that it is meet and right so to do, then begins the thanksgiving." The faithful's attention to everything that is spoken in the church and their inner state has a decisive role for what they experience as the working force to the grace during the services. They actually must co-serve with the priest. So instead of conclusion, we present in only a few words that the religion music is supposed to be like. All these features manifested more during certain historical period at a broad scale, especially during the first centuries of the Christianity. The distancing from the spirit of the tradition and the progressive extinction of the true experience during the liturgy of the communion of the God with the God and the fellows led to a misunderstanding of the symbols through which God could be perceived. Each time during historical period, more and more closer nowadays, a spiritual perception upon the entire liturgical complex of the Church was linked to the existence of the several innovators with an intense spiritual life and most often with genuine natural endowments. At a closer critical look on the Church today, one may observe that everything is reduced to the exterior of the cult. Almost all is reduced. We no longer live for a real Christ mystery. We have become Sunday Christians. We go to church each Sunday or feast. We say our prayers mechanically. We interpret the chants concerned only with the artistic aspects, etc. The thing that is the manner in which we relate to God and His things is visible from the moment we step out of the church. We become profane. Let's not forget that we go to church to pray and meet with God. We should not consider the church a concert hall. Well, excuse me for my English, I'm feeling very bad with my, and also feel good. Thank you very much.